everybody. I am still waking up this morning, so bear with me. Also, my eyes are probably going to be forward and not up there. Sorry. But this is where the chat is, so I might be able to bring the camera in a little closer, but it already feels a little bit close. Hello? Oh, it helps if I have the focus set correctly. There we go. Oh, no sound. Hold. Is there sound now? Let's try doing this. Can y'all hear me? Oh, okay. Let me know if not. Anyways, I literally just painted my nails, so I'm doing delicate operations over here to get settled. Actually, maybe I will bring this in just a little bit closer. Welcome to my face. Okay. Hello, good morning. Hi, or good afternoon, wherever you might be. We're all done with Tarot with Training Wheels. I cannot believe we're here. This project started at the end of 2020. So to be here now is very exciting to me. And for anybody that has managed to move through Tarot with Training Wheels now, I just wanted to say congratulations and thank you. I have gotten so much wonderful feedback from you guys on this course, and I'm really, really, really proud of it. It may not seem like it on the surface, but there was a lot of time and agonizing. Doggos. No, don't start. There was a lot of I'm always painting my nails right before live. You know why? Because you know the date. Here's my ritual. Okay, sorry, I'll get back on track, but I had to say this back to Magdalena. So here's my weekend rituals. So every Saturday morning, with very few exceptions, I watch cartoons with a good friend of mine, and we go on to Netflix in our mutual locations, and we turn on a thing called Netflix Party, which I think is now called something else, Teleparty, or what's it called? No, it's called Teleparty now. So basically, one of us will go into a Netflix show and click our Teleparty add-on thing, and it creates a chat box to the side of the show that you're watching, and then we send the link to the other person. So we chit chat as we watch cartoons. So we're currently watching the Masters of the Universe, the new He-Man cartoon one. Well, I guess they're all cartoon ones, but the new He-Man that actually has He-Man and Skeletor in it. We watched a different He-Man type thing that was different. But anyways, that's what we're watching right now. So I'll put on an episode of cartoons and I'll paint my nails because usually about 30 minutes is perfect. But also, what's Color Street? Is that the funny thing is I actually get contacted by a lot of companies wanting to sponsor my videos. And one of the things that I feel like I keep getting a lot of from a lot of different companies is nail stuff. I've had gel nail companies email me. I've had other ones where there's fancy devices you stick your fingers. I am this is my favorite, probably one of my favorite nail polishes of all time. This is me being not awake, so just deal with my scatteredness. But I cannot find any more of these. If you guys ever hear, these are Guerlain or Guerlain, I don't know how you say it, nail polishes. This one is called Black Perfecto, and it's actually a really deep purple. It's so pretty. I know you guys are here to talk tarot. I'll get on topic, I promise. But the thing about these is that they seem to come out I got one color and then a while. Oh, there you can see it. You can see the purple in it. Isn't it pretty? Anyway, I got this color, and this is my perfect nail polish. It was so expensive, but it's the perfect brush, the perfect formula. It's perfect. It's perfection. It's so satisfying to use. Anyways, I only managed to get 2 colors, and I don't think they even exist anymore. And it smells like one of their perfumes, which is really bizarre. But it's called La Petite Robe Noire or something. I can't find it anymore. It's driving me crazy. Anyways, yeah. No painting, no dry time. Oh, with Color Street or nail wraps. I feel like I've used some of those and they peel on me or something. I feel like I've used those before. Also, I've gotten good at painting my nails. So I like the process of it. It feels very self-care. I don't know. I love it. Okay. What was I talking about before nail polish? Hello, Dee Dee. Is that how I say your name? Tigerly Balm. So excited to finally catch one of these lives. I have so many questions. Oh, good. Okay, good. Yes, questions are good for these. Hello from Norway. What time is it in Norway, Jan? Oh my gosh. Oh, charmed viewer, I have just backed the Black Violet Tarot Cherry Blossom Edition. I just filmed last night my hot takes for November. So that's coming out next weekend when I can ever get it edited. Why, yes, I should be wearing my glasses. Oh, I got a new pair. Do you guys want to see? They're not I can't wear them like for the computer. Well, I can, but they're not really meant for the computer. I'll show you though, because I think they're really cute. So I have two different kinds of glasses, if you didn't know. I have glasses for when I'm at the computer, when I'm reading. Technically, I don't really need them when I'm reading. I mostly need them for the computer. How do I do this with wet nails? Okay, I did it. So these are my regular readers, these ones. I also have a pair at work. So this is what I should technically be wearing right now. So I'll put those back on in a second. But I got a different pair recently. They just came in yesterday. Can I get them out of the case? These are so cute, but these are for when I'm either driving or like watching TV or movies because I have one nearsighted eye and one farsighted eye. It's a really weird thing, but mostly I have astigmatism. Anyways, I swear to God, we'll talk about tarot this deal. But look how cute they're, like horn rimmed. They make me so happy. So I got these. So when I'm driving or watching TV, I can look cute. I don't know why, but I've been really into the more like slightly horn rimmed style lately. I don't know. Maybe the fact that I've been able to get glasses cheaper has made it more fun to get glasses. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. I'm still getting caught up on the chat. I'm like super scrolled up, so I can't see any of y'all's comments. But yes, I'm gonna put my regular glasses on. I apologize for any reflections. I think that's okay. Let's see. Let me go back down. It's 7:40 p.m. in Norway. Oh, good. I'm glad you can hear, Barb. Professor Lisa, did Peggy pass her finals on the training wheels course? She's so behind. She is doing it, but she is very behind right now. But I don't blame her. She's been working really hard. And if you guys missed the update, I'll be talking about it more. But Peggy now has a helper in with her sewing stuff. So she has a helper, Rose. So she's been really productive lately and been getting a lot done. Also, before you go, we may be able to see the northern lights. Okay, so Peggy told me this the other night, and we laughed and laughed and laughed until I was like crying because she's like, "Oh, look, we can maybe see the northern lights tonight." And we both look outside, and it was completely overcast and raining and pouring. I'm like, "Why would you even tell me that? That's just mean." But it is sunny today and clear, so maybe we'll be able to see them. That would be amazing. Excuse me, Shayla, stop. Because I was in Alaska, but I didn't get to see them when I was in Alaska. So I would love to be able to see them. Excuse me, Shayla, stop. She's being such a cranky girl today. In any case, I was babbling about how excited and proud I was of everybody about Tarot with Training Wheels. I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of the fact that it exists. I'm so excited for people that have come through it and have participated. And I think the part that I loved the most that I wasn't expecting to love is I was really feeling insecure right before I posted it. Like the day before or 2 days before it was supposed to go up, I was just having like a total crisis. I was like, nobody's gonna want, this is not what people are gonna want from me. Because I think in my head, and this is where imposter syndrome is like so real, right? But in my head, it was like, everybody seems to want a course that dives deep into the symbolism. And I think that's awesome. But like for me, when I just wanted to learn how to read tarot, that was way too much. It was just way too much. And I have a really big passion when I teach anything for wanting to teach it first to the person who knows zero. That is what I get really excited to do because I feel like the person who knows zero is the person that's typically left behind because the people that end up teaching stuff, whether it's tarot or I experienced the same thing, was passionate about this exact same thing when it comes to yoga too. Hello, Christy. But what I find is that when you get to know something really, really well, you lose that ability to remember what it was like when it was brand new. And so it's very common for something to be called a beginner thing, like a beginner class of something. And then you get there and it's really not actually beginner. It's like more like intermediate light. Do you know what I mean? And so it was really important to me to create something that would meet the beginner where they are. And I think the thing that was really exciting for me that I wasn't expecting, oh, sorry, let me go back to the insecure thing. So I was feeling really, really insecure, really nervous. I was like, I felt like maybe I'd hyped it too much, that people were going to be excited and then be really disappointed with what it was. And I remember I was messaging at the time with Shannon and having this total crisis. And Shannon was so sweet to me and was like, just gave me the pep talk I think I needed in that moment. And then it came out and the reception was really wonderful. And it was all I could have asked for. So for anybody that said very kind things throughout the course to me, thank you, because I struggled a little bit. I was a little worried. And really in general, I feel like my approach to tarot isn't always the stereotypical approach to tarot. And that will always be reflected in what I do here on the channel, whether it's a course or just chatting or what I do in my courses on my website or whatever. I feel like it's always going to reflect that slightly different approach, right? So I just had a moment of like, but I'm not like everybody else. But the thing that I think really, I keep starting this part and I'm not quite getting it out, but the thing that I think pleased me and surprised me and was so great was so many of you who know tarot really, really well, who have your own mastery of tarot, came in and said such nice things about how it still had value for you in some way, even if it was just a little bit of value. And knowing that even people who knew tarot really well got even just a little tiny something out of it was so exceptionally awesome. So if you were one of those people who was like, I know lots about tarot, and you said nice things, thank you, because that was really awesome. Robin says, you did great. The keywords were so well considered. The court cards still gave me pause, but all the rest were right on for me. That's totally fair. The court cards were a challenge. And the other thing I really worked hard at, and it's really hard to describe how important this was to me. One thing that I've seen happen a lot, not just in tarot, but in courses in general, is when somebody offers something for free and they also offer something that is paid, which I did in this situation. I offered a free course, Tarot with Training Wheels, and I'm also offering my Tarot Bootcamp for beginners. One of the things I feel like happens a lot is that the free thing is more like, the term I've heard used is like it's a lead magnet. So you're just roping people in with the free thing so that they'll go buy your paid thing. And I didn't want it to be that. Does that make any sense? So I wanted to have my Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners course, which I was really excited to do and put a lot of time and effort into. I wanted that to be a thing that existed and was available to people who wanted to go in a little harder on everything, right? But I didn't want the free thing to be a thing that left people at the end of it feeling like they didn't get enough, that it didn't feel like a complete thing all on its own. And then I also had, because I'm neurotic and this is how I think, I also thought, well, what if people want to do the free one and they want to do the paid one? I don't want the people who did the free one to feel like, oh, it's just all the same stuff in the paid one. And I didn't want the people that did the paid one to think that the free one was a waste of their time. Does that make sense? So I wanted to have the two kind of work like this. So I tried really hard to curate keywords that would be really good for Tarot with Training Wheels. And then I wanted to try not to duplicate very much in Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners. Because in Tarot with Training Wheels, we're working on learning one single keyword for every card. But in Tarot Bootcamp, I'm trying to like give you lots of keywords and stuff. So I wanted to not overlap them, but I wanted the keywords to still be effective for both courses. Because I'm ridiculous, right? So this is kind of what I mean. Let me see if I can find you an example. So here I've got, let me just grab, so I've got both decks. I've got my Training Wheels deck here, and I have my Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners course. I'm going to check on comments too. Dippity doo. I've paid money for courses that I didn't get much out of, but your Tarot with Training Wheels was the best one. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I have a problem. I don't know if you guys have ever had this experience, but have you ever signed up for a thing and it is one of those lead magnet things, right? And you're like excited about the free part of it. And maybe you would have gotten the paid part of it, but you go through the free part of it and you just feel like the person's just holding back. I didn't want that. I just didn't want that. I feel like that can feel on the receiving end, that can feel kind of scammy. And I don't like that. So I wanted it to be complete and that nobody would feel like they were missing out if they didn't do one or the other. Do you know what I mean? Broken Arrow, I really appreciated the course. I'm using all the information, applying it to my readings. Yay! Okay, so if you have never seen can the Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners be taken at any time? Yeah, it just exists on my website now. I do have a discount code that's running. There's a discount code in the description box. I think that runs for another week or so. I wanted it to run for about a week after Tarot with Training Wheels wrapped up. I want to say it ends on November 3rd or November 7th. I can't remember, but it says down below. I just can't see that right now. And it's a go at your own pace kind of thing. The one question I've gotten a lot is it one of those courses where it like drips out the lessons to you? No, when you sign up, you get access to the whole thing and you can just go through it at whatever pace you want. It's all there. And I'm sorry, I missed it. Tarot Seeker Clementia, your strategy was successful. I got something. Yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be something you could get. Okay, so let me grab, if you haven't ever seen it, the tarot, so the tarot training wheels concept was to add a keyword to a card, a deck that you already own. Whereas the Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners is you're building a deck with your own keywords that you can then use to continue to work with and learn the tarot, right? So I've got a card here, the Seven of Cups, and I want to just give you an example so you kind of know what I'm doing here, or what my hope was with these. And we go into a lot more layers in Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners. We go into like you building an association with each number, with each element, with each major arcana, with you kind of, there's more practice reading type exercises, things like that, that I wanted tarot with training wheels to be not too overwhelming. Okay, hello. I really just want my Seven of Cups. There it is. Okay. So here's here's one where I did overlap a little bit in my own personal, but I did Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners. A lot of the keywords that get added to the cards get added in the course creation. Like I added them in the course creation process. Like my deck got created while I taught the course. So there's a lot of like off the cuff things that happen during the filming of that. But so in the Seven of Cups in Tarot with Training Wheels, I just used the keyword indecision, which that keyword still showed up in Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners. But now I have indecision, fantasy, pie in the sky, imagination, wishful, individuality, discovery. And then I have the term crossroad of feeling, right? Another example from, let's grab this one. Okay, let's see if I can find it. Okay. Let's go for a major arcana. I really hate the cardstock on my bootcamp deck. Let's just grab. And today we are going to do Q&A just like before. So if you guys have questions that you want to address. Oh, there we go. Okay. So you'll see that some of my favorite keywords will still show up, but they may not be the highlight. So like in Tarot with Training Wheels, the sun, the keyword that I used was illumination. And then in Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners, my main keyword actually was, hello? Are we going to focus? Was realization. And then I have other keywords, the light, illumination, vitality, fun, warmth, joy, success, positivity, authenticity. So it goes more. Does that make sense? So ideally, you could start with Tarot with Training Wheels, and all of the keywords you have from here, you could add into your bootcamp deck, but then you get to take it further, which is the whole point. But if you started with just bootcamp or you just did training, like I wanted them, I know this probably sounds like I over agonized about this, and I definitely did, but it was important to me to not skip on anything. So I agonized, and I poured over my materials for a long, long time. So when I got where I got, I was really happy with it, but also really nervous. So Tigerly Balm, do you have any tips for learning decks that have unique systems not based in Rider-Waite-Smith, like the Mary L, Carnival, The End of the World, etc., when the guidebook doesn't necessarily speak to you? Okay, so I feel like I need to make my camera just a little bit lower. Hold on, bear with me for a second. If I can untrap myself. Okay. You know, the thing about live streams is that, hold on. Let's see if that's a little better. Yeah, I think that's going to be better. Okay. Oh, there's my monitor. Okay, we can do this. Lisa. Okay, there we go. That should work. So, okay, here's the thing. When you're working with a unique system, number one, the guidebook, I feel like I have to connect with. If I don't connect with the guidebook, but I'm trying to learn that particular deck's new system, it's like I can't. How else do I say it? Okay, let me use the Marielle as an example. And maybe this will answer the question or give you a strategy you can employ. But with the Marielle Tarot, I found that working with the guidebook and building, how do I say this? Do you ever read, okay, when two people read a poem, right? Each person might pull a slightly different meaning out of that poem or take something a little different away from it. If you listen to a song and you get to a portion in the lyrics that's really meaningful to you, that part of the lyrics may not be the same thing that connects with somebody else. Does that make any sense? So think of the tarot guidebook for your unique deck a little bit like that. what I would do is I would read the guidebook and I would look for the pieces of that meaning of that card that jump out at me personally. So that is that's really what distilling a meaning of tarot of any deck is really all about. It's like you read this whole long entry and then what is the piece that feels the truest for you? So that's what I would probably do. But I will be honest, if I am working with a unique system and I don't like the guidebook, I'm probably not going to want to put the effort in. Do you know what I mean? Let's see. You can tell from how organized and thought about it so much that you really care. I do care. I do care. Aw, Robin, that's really sweet. I think a Trading Wheels Tarot needs to come out with your keywords on them. But then it wouldn't be the same, right? Because I think the whole point is that I wanted to introduce my keywords, but then mostly invite the thought process where you create your own, where you, if mine works, that's great. But if mine doesn't work, that you pour over your own materials and figure out what works for you and then put that on there. And I feel like if I did that on a deck, it would limit it. It would box it in and be like, this is the right keyword, which is not the truth, right? My keyword is not the right keyword. It's just the one that I picked in that moment. And what was really cool was to see throughout the course how you guys would point out, like when other people shared their keywords, I loved that so much. Every time I saw that, I was like, thank you. Or when people showed up, like talked about how, oh, this keyword you used over here and this one over here, they seem like the same thing. Like, I loved that kind of inquiry and that kind of exploration because it got everybody thinking about the meaning of that card, which is the whole point. It became its own living, breathing thing. And I love that it just gets to exist now and stay its own living, breathing thing. That just really, really, really excites me. Did Dustin come in here? Hi, Dustin. I missed you coming in. Hello. Samantha says, when doing or using a spread, do you shuffle and draw after each question or just review the spread and then shuffle, draw all cards of the spread? Okay, so I've done it both ways. It kind of depends. So if I'm doing like a small spread with like, say, 2 or 3 separate questions, I don't know if this is going to make sense. Like if it's the kind of spread where it's 2 or 3 cards and each card has like a question or a prompt, then I might shuffle and draw for each prompt. But if it's like, oh, here's the Celtic cross spread, or here's a horseshoe shaped spread or a star shaped spread, excuse me, then I'll read over the spread and like focus on the entire point and all of the questions. And then I'll shuffle and lay out all the cards. I also lay out all my cards face up. I used to back in the day, lay them all face down and take them in one at a time. But my reading style shifted over the years. And what I really like to do now is lay out all of my cards and then look at all of them face up and look for patterns and connections. And that's something that I hope to cover in a future course, is like how you do that process and how you build those connections. Because sometimes I have half a reading done in a way in my head before I've even really looked at what the cards mean individually. But I've looked at, oh, there's like a lot of fire on the table. There's a lot of earth on the table. What's missing from the table? Where am I seeing elements grouped or like certain energies grouped? Oh, there's a bunch of 5s. What's that all about? Like, so I end up doing a lot of pre-reading before I even get into card by card. But when I was new to reading tarot, I would lay them all out face down. I would turn one over. I would look at what that means. I would think about that. And then I would go on to the next one. And I loved reading that way for the longest time. I feel like I went off the rails a little bit there, but Antoinette says, most court cards have keywords that describe personality traits, but what would be keywords for reading the courts as situations? This is actually one of the reasons why I like personality energy for the court cards. Let me see if I can explain what I mean. So let me find some court cards and talk through it a bit. This is such a common issue because it's very difficult to not hone in on the court cards as people. But if you pick personality keywords for yourself when you're learning, if you pick personality keywords that can apply not just to people. Does that make sense? Let me see if I can give you some examples here, because I tried to do that in this course. So let me find, are these in order? No, they're not. I'm just not finding any quartz. Are they all in the back? Probably. Okay. So now this maybe makes more sense for me because I have a tendency to personify objects and situations anyways. But let's take a look at the King of Wands, where I have the keyword inspiring. Oops, there we go. So inspiring is the keyword I put down here. So let's say I was reading about a work situation and this card came up in the future position and I see the keyword inspiring. And so this is, let's say it's a Celtic cross and I was reading about what's going on in my work. Like, what do I need to know about my work right now? And inspiring comes up in the future position, or the King of Wands comes up in the future position. See what I did there in my brain? So inspiration is in the future. And I start to think about, how could a situation be inspiring? How could my work be inspiring? And then I jump off from there. So I would be thinking about how maybe what I'm going to be leaning into at work is maybe not chasing a dollar so much, but chasing the kinds of work that make me feel fulfilled, that are inspiring me to expand my knowledge, expand my growth. So I would take that same word and apply it to the situation. If the situation was a person, what kind of person would they be? And you can suddenly have room to grow from there. Here's another example. Let's say same reading, work reading. And in the future position, I pulled the Prince of Pentacles. Kind of funny that I'm getting these ones. And we have dependable. And I think about the Prince of Pentacles as a person. What kind of person is he? Okay, he's going to be slow moving, cautious. He's not going to be taking a lot of unnecessary risks. Oh, well, that's what's going to be happening for me at work. I maybe need to slow down, worry about quality, not quantity, worry about quality, not speed. I need to think about how I can take my time, tortoise and hare, as opposed to racing to a finish line. How can I focus and be more concentrated and focused on my work? So here, our Prince of Pentacles is holding a pentacle and he's guarding it very carefully, and he's mindful of it and he's paying attention to it. So it's about focus, maybe less multitasking, right? And so suddenly I have this picture of who the Prince of Pentacles is, and I'm like, how can I embody that energy in the future? How is that going to help me? Let's see. I hope that answered the question, kind of, right? I gave some examples. Here's another one. So you pull the Queen of Pentacles and she's comforting, right? So it's like, oh, okay. So the Queen of Pentacles is all about being comfortable, making sure people around her are comfortable. How can maybe this is an indication that going into my work in the future, I need to be more aware of being a really good team player, making sure everybody else's needs are met on the job as well as my own. Maybe I need to be less individual, like self-focused at work, and be more focused on the team. Do you see what I mean? Like, you can start to embody the energies against the situation. And if you have a different example you want me to use, yeah, so the Ace of Wands was inspiration, and then I used the King of Wands as inspiring. And isn't that interesting? Let's talk about the Ace versus the King in general for a moment. So if the Ace is the pure potential of its suit, so if the Pentacles is the pure potential of money and financial resources and stability and all of our earthly responsibilities, then the King is the master of that exact energy. So if the Ace of Wands, representing the pure potential of the Wands suit, is all about, good morning, is all about inspiration and getting that spark, then the King of Wands is very much the holder of that spark and the one that can like share it with others and can help to others to feel that inspiration because they are the master of that energy. One of the best examples of this specifically is from the Osho Zen Tarot. If I'm remembering it correctly, the Ace of Wands is like this ball of fiery energy, and it's called Source. And then the King of Wands is actually a figure that is holding this ball of energy. And that is such a perfect example of how you move through the suit, and by the King of the suit, your like mastery of the suit. Does that make sense? I hope that answered your question, just to student learning, and gave you kind of why you might see some of that coming through. Like when I was picking keywords, that would be in my mind as I'm thinking about who is what in what card, you know what I mean? So that would explain probably where that came from for me. Whether I didn't do that on purpose, but like as I was picking the keywords, it makes sense that if the Ace of Wands is inspiration, then the King of Wands would be an incredibly inspiring person. He would be shining that light outward for others, he or she or whatnot, you know? Let's see. Somebody had a fabulous idea. I missed it. Joe, when you say the future position, what spread are you using? So in my mind, in that case, I was using the center of a Celtic cross, where on the left side of the cross, you have the past, and on the right, you have the future. But you could also look at it the same way in like a past, present, future spread, anything like that. Okay. Rainbell says, did a reading for myself the other day and had no problem with the chords. Yay! It included 2 kings bookending 2 twos. I had just seen 11:11 on the clock while pondering question. So twos echoed that. Oh, that's so cool. How is the king the master of the energy and the queen not the master of that energy? Or how are they both masters of the energy in different ways? So all of these things can be true. And I think it's important to point out here, there is not, my opinion, there is not a one true way. I have a big feeling about this. One true way to read the tarot, right? So some people might see kings and queens as dualistic masters of their energy. So, for example, they might see master and the king and the queen are identically equal. They are both mastering the suit. They're just mastering it in slightly different ways, embodying more of those active passive elements. Some might use words like masculine, feminine. I've certainly used those words in the past, but you could think active, passive. You could think more commanding, more nurturing. There's different ways to look at the way that someone masters the suit. So that's a valid way to look at it. Also, you could look at it as the queen is more focused on how do I direct this? I feel like the queen is more focused on pulling energy in. Visually, I see that as like the queen wraps her arms around whoever's in her space in whatever way that she does. Sometimes she does that in a very firm way. Sometimes she does that in a very cozy, comfy way. Dustin, the tarot police are coming for you. Watch out. I know, right? But she kind of wraps her arms around, right? And she's kind of like, come here, let me help you. Let me teach you. Let me share with you the energy of this suit. Whereas the king is very much the energy of stand there and like, hear what I'm telling you. Like, I'm going to give you this energy to now go take and run with it, but I'm going to have high expectations of you. So I see them very much as, again, kind of emperory is the king and empressy is the queen. Let's see. Dustin says, I've always looked at the court king and queen as more mundane aspects of the emperor and empress with regards to the suits they represent. 1000% yes, I see the emperor, the kings are the little emperors and the queens are the little empresses. That's 1000% my view as well. Michelle says, just join. Not sure if anyone has asked, but I'm having a hard time understanding the difference between the majors and the minors. Yes, major versus everyday issues, but what does that actually mean? Okay, I kind of semi-disagree, and I'm sure I'm going to contradict myself in something I've said in the past, but just come along with me for this ride. So I don't always think that the majors are big stuff and the minors are little stuff. I do feel like when you lay cards on the table in a spread, major arcana can tend to have bigger messages or feel stronger or more potent in a way. They can tend to point out things that are going to be felt more strongly, but it's kind of like, okay, here's an example from within the minor arcana. A 2 of cups is going to feel much different than a 10 of cups. A 10 of cups is a bigger, more developed energy, right? In the 2 of cups, we have two people who are meeting. There's a connection. It may even feel like long-term romantic love, for example. But in the 10 of cups, it's established, right? There's structure and there's foundation around it. And in the 10 of cups, you might have the situation where you've now built a family or you've really built a life with somebody. So the 10 is more developed than the 2. It's bigger feeling, right? So the major arcana, I think the reason we kind of slip into the habit of saying these are the big moments in life and the minors are the little moments in life isn't because that's necessarily true, but because the major arcana have a tendency to be even bigger and more developed than like the 10s of their suit. Does that make, or the 10s of the minors? So, a tower is going to feel bigger and more intense than a 10 of swords. Maybe, not always, right? Or if you're pulling cards in a reading, this happens to me a lot. If I have 10 cards on the table and 4 of them are major arcana, then I'm going to sit up a little straighter and pay a little more attention because there's a weight of major arcana in that reading. Even more so if there's 5 or 6 major arcana on that spread, right? If I pull a reading and it's all minor arcana, the situation has a tendency in that reading to feel a little more fluid, a little more subject to sooner change, a little less heavy, a little more like a snapshot, like a Polaroid versus a whole photo album of a situation.
Everything, and you usually draw more than one card.
Yeah, I was just talking about a spread. I literally just said that. You missed it.
Because I was ignoring you.
Yeah, Peggy's eating cashews and starting to wake up, and she has sleepy eyes, and it's really cute. You have sleepy eyes.
Adorable.
You are adorable. She has a little bed head too. It's really cute. Yeah. Queen is more relational. That's one way to look at it. Yeah. And B says, I think of it as inner and outer. Yeah. Another way to look at it is yin and yang style energies, or where the queen is very yin and the kings are very yang. Have you ever worked with the Voyager Tarot? Are you asking me? I have actually filmed a walkthrough of the Voyager Tarot, and I actually have the Voyager Tarot hanging on my rack in my bedroom of decks that I have yet to work with. It's sitting there until I feel called to work with it. Here's my story about the Voyager, because it's a really cool deck, actually. But the very first tarot reading I ever received, I received from a close friend, and she used the Voyager Tarot. And she actually passed away about 6 6 or 8 years, I think, after that reading, the day of that reading. And that deck is like connected to her in my mind now. But also the way that she read it was really inspiring to me, and I think was really the seed that was planted to make me interested in reading tarot in the future. And I think that's because the Voyager Tarot, if you've never seen it, it's a very busy kind of collage deck. I do think the system strays a bit. I've got to learn more about it that way, but the images are very stimulating, right? Like there's lots of things happening on every card, and the way that she read it and the things that she said to me and the reading that bore out to be very true over the next 1 to 2 years of my life was very impactful. So yeah, short answer is no, but soon, maybe, probably.
One of these years?
One of these years, yeah. Dustin says good morning. So did a bunch of other people. Barb said good morning, I think, and Christine.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah. Peggy says good morning. So I decided to keep it a little bit slim. I'm focusing mostly on the Training Wheels deck today, but I do have an alternate deck if we want to look at card meanings. I have my little travel edition of the Mons Tarot. And you guys, the Cosmo Beings deck is about to launch. Like it's about to launch. I was talking with Joanna about it yesterday. It's about to launch. So watch Kickstarter because that's coming. If you don't know, the Cosmo Beings is Joanna's newest tarot, and it's black and white with pops of red, and it's got this very kind of cosmic feel. Obviously, Cosmo Beings. Andy the Wildflower. I tried with the Voyager. I just can't. It feels like there's an arrogance to the writing in the guidebook. I know exactly what you mean. I did pick up on a bit of that. I also watched an interview with the creator. I don't know how I feel about that, but I do love the images. So we'll see. I think I missed a question. Something about, okay, here we go. Hold on. Okay, I get ace, page, knight, and king. How does queen fit into that? LB, let me see if I understand your question. So you feel like you have more of a connection to the ace, the page, the knight, and the king, and you're not quite getting how the queen fits. Am I understanding? So let's take, because my Mons Tarot deck is still in order. So I figured that'd be really good for today. Less hunting for cards. So let's take the Pentacles as an example here. Don't dent my nail polish, Lisa. Did I? I think I did. Okay, that's okay. All right. So here we have the court cards of the Mons Tarot. So we have our page, who I see as somebody who is very resourceful. He has a tendency to kind of mine opportunities for himself just naturally, like just that type of person, right? The type of person, the type of energy that is going to like turn lemons into lemonade, like legitimately. That's the page, right? So he's the young person. He's going to kind of hack things out, figure it out, that kind of thing. The Knight of Pentacles is, I kind of see the Page of Pentacles actually kind of almost MacGyver-y, but less brain, more just having a knack for like mining opportunity. I don't know. Okay, anyways, the Knight of Pentacles, I see the Knight of Pentacles as somebody who's very dependable, who gets from point A to point B safely, who keeps his charge or whatever's in his care safe along the way. Like he's not going to take unnecessary risks. He's going to be slower. Tortoise and hare kind of energy. He's the tortoise, right? And then the Queen of Pentacles, I see the Queen of Pentacles. Now thinking of that sort of how she might wrap her arms around people in a material way. That's what I would think. How does she wrap her arms around us? How does she make us feel comfortable in her suit specialty, which is the earthly element, right? So she's going to be somebody I feel like who's going to be really into cooking, really wants to make sure everybody's got something warm to wear and the temperature is just right. She'd be a good hostess. She's going to make sure that like everybody's well fed and is materially okay. If you bring her a problem, she's going to give you tactical solutions for solving that problem, but make sure you're comfortable doing it. Like I feel like that's kind of the way that she nurtures, is in those material ways. So that's kind of how I see her. Whereas the King of Pentacles, I feel like he's the dude you ask, or again, the woman. I'm just picking genders because it's easier, but they can be any gender, right? We know this. But the King of Pentacles, the thing about him is that I would bring him my problems and he'd help me figure out tangible solutions. How am I going to work towards this thing? I feel like he's got a lot of skill in his element, right? So he's going to be very good at managing finances, for example, or running a business. He's going to have that sort of ability to look at things through a tangible, if you do this, this thing will happen kind of way. Do you have a Bruno?
Bruno is just
I don't know if that helped answer about the queen's role, but I feel like they just each have a different energy. We have sort of a youthful, what's a good word? Like an excited energy in the page. The page is the one that's excited about their suit, about everything associated with their suit. The knight is the person who is doing stuff with relation to suit. He's action oriented. The queen is nurturing with relation to her suit. And then the king is kind of commanding and leading in relationship to the suit in a personality kind of way. So hopefully that answers your question. There's a lot to dip into with all of this. Let's see. Let's see. Joining late. Good morning. Did Lisa cover more about what's in the course, the payment one? Oh, Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners. We can go over that. I really like the Tarot Training Wheels course. Wondering what's more in the next iteration. Okay, you know what? Let's take a moment and take a look at that. Let me see if I can do that.
Now for our commercial.
Now for our commercial break. Yeah. No, but let me just see if I can bring it up and show you guys what it looks like on the website. So let me see if I can just share this. I'll be signed in, so I'll be able to see all the things usually. So let me just share and we'll look at it. We'll look at it together. So share screen. And this is just good to know. Let's see if it's showing up properly. It is. Hello, this is my website. Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm not going to read all that. That's silly. Okay, so up at the top, you have all the links, right? And you can see one called Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners. So once I have my next course, it'll probably say something like Learn Tarot or something here. So you know it'll take you to a landing page where you can see multiple. But for now, if you click that, you'll go to the page that shows the Tarot for Bootcamp icon. It has a little write-up here about it and a little bit of more information about what it's all about. If you click where it says click here to see the course outline, that's what we're going to look at right now. And you can also view the first lesson for free, which is more like a, hey, here's what we're doing in this course. So that's useful if you're curious about it because I tell a little bit more about what we're doing and how it's working. So if you click that, you go to the actual course page and you'll see these are all of the lessons. So in Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners, we start with an introduction and every assignment has usually a lesson. So here's the one you can actually view. It's called Introduction and Getting Started. It's just a short 10-minute video. And then there's a homework assignment. Everybody can view this for free, by the way. If you click the homework assignment, you'll see that there's a downloadable DIY tarot card template. You can print this out. It's just what I'm using here. Let me just show you really quick. So it's just this. It's just a plain like card with a dotted outline. Hello, can we focus? Thank you. And then I've got the titles up at the top. That's basically all it is. But it's just to make it easier. Or you can actually get from Amazon or from wherever some blank tarot cards. But you can see the course outline down the side here. So let me just go back and go back again. So we go through introduction. We talk about structure. So that's similar to what we did in Tarot with Training Wheels. But then we get into the major arcana. I kind of introduce you to the main archetypes of the majors. And then one of the homework assignments that I'm going to send you to from there is to really do your own deep dive into those archetypes. I have handouts to help you explore those. We talk through those. And then we get into, similar to Tarot with Training Wheels, we do a card exploration where I compare to other decks. And I talk through how that energy shows up. And during the process of talking that through, we add more and more keywords to our DIY deck about that card, right? Then there's exercises where we read with the majors. Then we get into building blocks of the minors. So we'll talk about the role of the elements. We'll talk about building your own personalized numerological system for yourself. And then we go through the numbered cards, similar pacing, right, to what we did in Tarot with Training Wheels. You go through the wands numbered, the swords numbered, the cups numbered, the pentacles numbered, and then we'll just read with those. And we're building each time, as we go, we're building on this deck and kind of creating more and more to it. When we get into the minors, I think I'm using deck comparisons, and I think I use about 8 different decks, if I remember, either 8 or 10 different decks. And we're seeing how the energy shows up in different decks. So you can see in different imagery what that could look like. And you use the different imagery, and I use the different imagery during the course to kind of give you an idea of how you can build more and more and more keywords, right? It's like, oh, well, in this card, this is what this character is doing. In this card, this is what's happening. And how can we like pull different bits of inspiration about what the card can mean from these different decks. So we kind of build this comprehensive view that way. Then we do the same thing with the court cards. In the court cards, we do a couple different exercises because first we focus on their primary personalities and their energies. And then we go into card comparisons and we get real deep in that. and then we read for ourselves. But you also learn how to read for yourself with just the majors, just the minors, and just the court cards to give you comfort with all of those different pieces. So that's pretty much everything that is covered. And you can click around and just kind of see, but that's basically what it is. It's just a lot more. Like it's like tarot with training wheels, but like
On steroids.
yeah, like Peggy said. I hope that answers that question. Did I stop sharing the screen? Y'all, I stopped sharing the screen. That was ridiculous. Okay, well, let's just do a quick overview again. I won't recap the whole thing, but you can see this for yourself if you go to my website,
The first lesson is free.
what each thing is covering. So this is what I was just talking through. I just forgot to reshare the screen again. I was just going through each of these. There wasn't really anything to click. I was just using it as a reference point, but that's what I was just talking about. Sorry about that. Anyways, let's see. Tarot Seeker Clementia, and speaking of commercial breaks, I see that there are still dragon bags available at Sparks Creations. Okay, so if you guys don't know,
Lisa gave me a warning, so Rose and I made extra dragon bags.
yeah, I told Peggy up front this video was coming out, and Peggy got on board. So if you don't know, here's the situation. We don't need to keep this part up. Okay, here's the situation. If you have not seen yesterday's video, I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about it. So I'm doing my first fundraiser, and I'm really excited about it. So it's basically for Team C's. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. Just watching the video helps us towards the goal. And then there's also more information about the cause and all that good stuff. But as part of that, Peggy is donating 10% of all sales this week from Monday all the way through Sunday night. She's donating 10% also to Team C's to a minimum of $100 as well. So if
I've already reached.
Have you already reached?
I've already reached the minimum.
Yeah, so we're already at minimum. So every dollar that is spent at her shop, 10% of that is going back to Team C's this week. So we'll be reporting back on the total.
Gross, not my net.
Yeah, I know. I made that very clear in the video. It's not 10% of her profit. It's 10% period. Like if you spend $10, $1 goes to Team C's. That's how she's doing it. Andy asks or says, I wonder if the Little Mons Tarot will be available as an add-on to the Cosmo Beings Kickstarter. Yes. There will be a tier where you can get this also. I already know that. Insider information. Woo! What else have I missed? Buy all the Peggy bags. Go to Peggy's shop before Alana goes there again. Word.
We love you, Alana, but say something to the other kids.
Off topic and feel free to ignore, but what do you think about the Corrupted Tarot on Kickstarter? I just filmed my hot takes last night. Was Corrupted Tarot in there or no? I can't remember now. I don't think it is, because I think the campaign's over by the time my video comes out. But I've looked at it. It's funding like crazy. It is a collab deck, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Please, somebody feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it was a collab deck, which is usually a deal breaker. So I'm holding for now. But it's very cool in that every single card does address the corrupted meaning of that card. Like the corrupted emperor is like this. The corrupted fool is like this. So it's kind of like a deck of shadowy meanings. So that's really cool. I will keep my eyes on it. I don't think I need something like that, but I will keep my eyes on it because I have decks like the Deviant Moon that I tend to go to for those more darker, shadowier meanings. So I'm probably fine. But oh my gosh, the campaign is like really successful. It's kind of like, wow. I think that last time I looked, they were at like over $500,000. So they're doing pretty well. Let's see. What was the other question I just saw? Do you think each major or court card would correspond to be associated to a certain chakra? I want to say yes, because I want there to be those associations. And I know it's been done because there is the Chakra Healing Tarot, which I think Malamir did a really good job with that one. But even still, I found that I'm way too picky to be able to distill it down, because really the chakras are a system that cover like all the aspects of the self, really, but they also cover such a broad range that it's hard to distill one court card down to one chakra energy. Now, I have associated a few of the major arcana cards to the chakras, and you can see exactly what those associations are if you check out it's on my channel. If you click search and look up the word chakra just in the search box on my channel, you'll find I did a meditation that went through all 7 of the chakras. It's like a guided meditation. And each chakra I've associated with one of the environments or experiences, kind of like a path working of a certain major arcana card. So for example, I have the solar plexus chakra associated with the chariot. So when you're going through that meditation, when you get to the solar plexus, you'll have a chariot-like experience in this guided meditation. So I do think it's possible to associate some cards to the chakras. I don't think I would try to, at this point, after honestly trying to kind of wrap my head around it.
Individual experience.
Yeah, like I don't think I'd be able to like actually get it distilled down properly, because I just think it's too much in flux. Oh, it won't be available after the campaign? Rude. How do we know that? Did they say that? They've got a lot of funding for not being available after the campaign. They're not getting any extras? That seems silly. I don't know why they would do that. Mind you, I guess it makes sense because the Aliman's Tarot is the same. And I think the reason was because they're paying their artists, right, based on the decks. I don't know how that works, actually. I'm going to stop talking about it because I don't know what I'm saying. But I know there's something there about like not licensing to like everybody's art over the like long term, but doing it over a single project. So that could be why.
Yeah, there's single use and then there's ownership.
Alana, oh yeah, the fundraiser. So on second thought, I'm not done shopping, so y'all better watch out. Oh no. Velvet Forest Moon. Tarot with training wheels help me grasp tarot in a way I've never been able to before. You're welcome. Yay. That's like the best thing ever. That was the whole point, was just give a working, like, I just want people to be able to pull out their cards and like do readings for themselves without having to twist themselves into knots to do it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. And this is a regular Q&A. If you guys have other questions specifically about different kind of like comparing and contrasting different cards, I just really want an excuse to flip through my mom's tarot. This is great. This is great. I'm excited about this. Aw, thanks. That's nice. You guys are so sweet. I'm just checking to see if I missed any other questions. Yeah, Alana says the page is the curious newbie or the inner child. Yeah, I feel like the pages are often very youthful in their energy, and they bring that sort of youthful optimism or naivete to their suit. So they bring a little bit of that wide-eyed excitement. Like the wands, page of wands can be very like open to adventure and very like, let's do a thing and like not overthink it. And the page of swords is like wants to learn and wants to understand how everything works. And the page of pentacles, I feel like is just going to be like the hands-on kind, like I want to make money, so I'll have a paper route, or I want to improve something, so I'm going to tinker. I feel like they're kind of MacGyver-y in that way, because they're just open to exploration and have that innocence of the youth, right, in their suit, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, I hope I answered the person who originally asked about Bootcamp, but I know I did it I got kind of side railed by the screen not showing up. James Wanla's author of Voyager is a trip. He's a super nice guy. Yeah, I think he's really passionate about what he created. Like that's very clear in the interview that I watched, and I think he put a lot of thought behind it. The person right after me asked the same. Oh, I missed this question. Michelle says, how do you compare the aces and the pages? Well, I was just chatting about the pages a little bit. So aces, again, one of the things that I have a mental image, and I can't remember where I got it. Probably something I read somewhere along the line or encountered. But there's two ways to kind of look at the aces, in my opinion, and they can work together. So one of my favorite words for the aces are seeds. So they're the seed of their suit. And one of the interesting things about a seed, when you think about it, is like if you have a seed of a tree, right? That seed has all the potential for what that tree will become. So in essence, it is the potential, but it is also all encompassing. And this gets a little bit hard to describe. So one of the ways I visualize this is a seed. So let's talk the Ace of Fire for a second. So the Ace of Fire, I see it as the seed of everything that the wand suit becomes. So I also kind of picture, I don't know if this will translate well out loud. Let me try this. Imagine you're looking at a little seed, and then you get really, really close up to it. And when you get really, really close up to it, it's actually kind of like a snow globe. And within that snow globe is like everything related to that suit. Does that make sense? It's kind of like big and tiny all at the same time. And the pages are the first court card in their suit, or in the suit. Yeah, in the suit. So like the page of, let's grab a different suit this time. Let's grab the cups just so I can have something to hold up. Or I'm in the ones. Where are my cups? I want cups. There they are. They're in the end. Okay. So, oops. Okay. I kind of feel like the pages, without realizing it, the pages can kind of see that the seed is a snow globe. Did anybody follow that at all? Did that make sense? Like, I feel like on some level, okay, like, you know how kids might have paranormal experiences and it's completely natural to them. They're like, oh yeah, this thing happened. And like, they're just more open and more sensitive to the energy, if that makes any sense. And so the pages of the suit, I feel like on a subconscious level, they're aware of the pure potential of their suit. That's, I think, why they're so excited about it. Like, they're excited to explore all their feelings, like in the page, right? They're excited to explore what's possible tangibly, like in the Page of Pentacles. They're excited to explore their mind in the Page of Swords. So I feel like there's a connection in a way, in the sense that the pages are more connected than the other court cards to that awareness that anything is possible within their suit. So there's an openness and an expansion to the way that they view the world, versus when you get into the knights and the queens and the kings, you get into a little more rigidity. You get into a little more locked in thinking. I hope that made sense. But yeah. Here it is. Barb says this is on the Corrupted Tarot. From the FAQ, the tarot deck is a limited time offering through this Kickstarter. Once the campaign is closed, we will have pre-orders available through our pledge manager for a short period of time. And then I guess once it's sold out, it's sold out. What if they have extras? Like, you don't do a print run of like 5,722 decks. You do like a 5,000 print run, a 10,000 print run, a 7,500 print run. You know what I mean? So like, what are they doing with the extra decks then? Like, maybe what they mean is that once they're gone, they're gone. Maybe. I'm trying to wrap my brain around how that works. Ace is seed, page is student. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Broken Arrow. I love that this course birthed a unique standalone deck in my collection. Do you mean the tarot with training wheels? Like, now you have this like this kind of a situation happening? Okay, so let's talk about, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything else. Okay, so let's talk about the fives. I can never get enough talk about the fives, if you want to go there. So do you have a specific question in mind about the fives? Seed, snow globe. I'm so glad somebody understood what I meant by that. But it's like, once I got that visual of the seed and the snow globe, for some reason it all clicked for me. And until then, until I had a visual, but I'm a very visual thinker. That might not work for other people, but that's what works for me. Okay. So if you have a specific question about the fives, Tarot Seeker Clementia, then just post it below. But I'm going to pull them out and we'll talk about it. Actually, let me pull out my training wheels fives, if I can find them. There's the Five of Wands. I need to drink more of my coffee before it goes cold. There's the Five of Pentacles. LB says, reminds me of the life renewed exploration in Hidden Realm. She gives an acorn with the potential of an oak tree. Yes, acorns are such a beautiful representation. I get really excited when decks have acorns as the Ace of Pentacles, for example, or the Ace of Wands, both of which works for me. Because I think that's a good way to look at it. Ooh, we got some questions queued up. Nice. Okay, so okay. All right, so let's just see. Is how the fives as a numerical meaning change throughout the suits? I don't think so, but it depends on your numerical association, which is what I kind of guide you through in Bootcamp. But let me just give you a general idea. So for me, fives always represent some sort of disruption in their suit, some sort of conflict or some sort of challenge. So you can look at that a number of different ways, but like in the Five of Swords, there's been an actual battle. The word I've used here is tyrant, but there's been an actual battle and somebody's come out on top, and probably not through the fairest of play, right? In the 5 of Cups, there's been a loss, something we're grieving. That's the disruption to our emotional landscape, something we're dealing with, difficult emotion. We're dealing with sadness and our relationship to sadness. In the 5 of Pentacles, we usually are feeling alone in some way. We're feeling disconnected from other people. And we're also usually dealing with some kind of material resource issue or loss or disruption, or an energetic loss or disruption. We might be burnt out in this card. We might be feeling lonely. There's a whole lot of ways this can show up. And then in the 5 of Wands, there's usually conflict with others. So in our quest for following our inspiration through to some kind of culminated project, let's take a creative project, for example, like writing a book. The 5 of Wands can represent that point you hit when you're thinking about everybody else who's written something similar or done something similar. That insecurity that I mentioned before I launched Tarot with Training Wheels, that feeling that like, this isn't what people will want. Other people want other things. Other people can do it better. That kind of thing. That can be 5 of Wands energy. 5 of Wands energy can be when you're going for a promotion and other people are also competing for the same promotion. There's a little more equal footing. Everybody's kind of on the same territory and their sticks are all roughly the same size. But they're almost competing about who has the bigger stick, you know, which has a whole other meaning as well if you want to go there. Yeah, conflict can be a weird word. I like words like disruption, challenge, interruption, or but I mean conflict, these are all types of conflicts. I think the problem is that conflict can sometimes lean negative, but it's actually kind of a neutral word. In any story, there's always a point at which there's some kind of a conflict. There's a conflict with ourselves, there's a conflict with somebody else. That could be happening internally, it could be happening externally. Bye, Samantha. So there's lots of different ways this kind of disruptive, disjointed energy can come up. But in the 5s, we're not feeling grounded and solid. We're feeling shaken in some way. There's a shakeup. And really, this is gonna probably be bad. This is probably not the best analogy ever. Tower moments are shakeups, right? But the 5s are kind of like mini shakeups. Like we're building our house of cards and like a few of the cards have fallen down, or maybe even some of the cards, like half of the cards have fallen down, or maybe it's just a smaller situation in our life and like all of the cards have fallen down, but we're feeling out of sorts, right? Something's off balance in the 5s. If you picture the pips, the 5 pips on a playing card or on a dice, you've got that stable 4 with the 5 right in the center, just like in there messing things up. Bye, Lisa. So I says 5 of Swords is pride versus 5 of Cups absence. That's one way to look at it. Yeah, those are good keywords. Something's missing in the 5 of Cups. We're missing something or someone. And in the 5 of Swords, we're full of ourselves, or we've just dealt with somebody who's full of themselves. That might be ego. I don't know if I took that the right way. Let's see. There was another question too that I spotted right after the 5s. Something about the 7 and 9. Where did that go? Here we go. Can we talk more about the 7 and the 9 of Wands? This is a good one. So, and in case, by the way, before I answer this question, this idea of Q&A and like hacking the tarot, we're going to continue this. So I'll have the next one in November. It won't be related to the course anymore. It'll just be its own thing, but I'm going to call it Troubleshooting the Tarot. And we're going to have our first live stream where we troubleshoot the tarot. Same exact kind of thing we're doing right now, where we're just looking at different questions. We're bringing up challenges with reading cards, that sort of thing. I'm going to have the next one on November 20th. I just had to check my schedule, but yeah, that's when we're going to do that. So 7 and 9 of Wands. So let me pull it up in my Mons Tarot because this one's in order. And that way Peggy can be off the hook. Where are my wands? Let's keep the deck in order, Lisa. Let's not mess that up here. Why can't I find my wands? Okay, we have Pentacles. Then we have Swords. Oh, then we have Wands. Oh, okay. That's fine. They were just not in the order I was expecting. Okay, so we have our 7 and we have our 9. Okay. So these can create a lot of confusion because they're both protective cards in a way, right? We're kind of protecting ourselves in both of these cards. So what's the difference? In the 7 of Wands, we're feeling ganged up on. Or if we're here, right? Because we're not always the central figure in the card, which I think is worth pointing out. It's sometimes about where you are in this story of the card. So in the 7 of Wands, our monster here is up. Is he on top of another monster? It almost looks like an elephant-shaped monster, but it's not. It's like a hill. But so our orange monster here, he's up on the very top. And he's got this stick. And all of these other sticks are representing other little monsters down below him that are holding sticks and kind of coming at him. A lot of times the Seven of Wands is that moment where you're the outlier. You're the person who's maybe thinking a little differently or feeling a little differently. You're feeling singled out in some way, and you're feeling like that energy is coming at you, and you need to now stand up for something. Now, there's shadowy ways to look at this card, and there's not so shadowy ways to look at this card. On one hand, this could be you standing up for your beliefs and having to like kind of fight back against dominant thought that's coming your way. This could also, though, be a situation where you're you know that saying about like, is this the hill you're gonna die on? Like, is this the hill you're gonna die on? Is exactly the energy of the Seven of Wands. It's like, do you feel strongly enough about this to be the outlier? Excuse me. Is that where you're landing? I filmed last night, so my voice is a little rough. But is that where you're gonna be? Are you confident that you're in the right enough to be standing here? So some of my personal associations with this card are standing your sacred ground, because that's the not shadowy aspect of this. But a more shadowy aspect of this card could be that you are just refusing to listen to the people around you who maybe have something to teach you. So sometimes it's about getting off the hill and getting a little more humble and learning, right? So it really depends on where you're at in the story. In the Nine of Wands, though, in the Nine of Wands, the wands are behind you. So you're not the outlier, but you are kind of in this situation where you're having to really defend what you've built. So this is about something that's more established, because in the eight, we've built something. We've got something that's taken on a life of its own. Let's go back to the analogy of the book. You're writing a book, because creative projects are great analogies for the wand suit. They're not the only analogy, but it's just a good one to go with. So you're writing a book. In the Seven of Wands, right? Maybe what's happened is, as you're writing this book, let's assume it's a fictional novel. You had an idea of where the story was going to go. But as you're writing the book, you start to realize that, like, oh, it's kind of going in a different direction. Do I rigidly stand back and like hold to my original vision? Is that what I really want for this project? Or do I want to kind of go with the flow? Do I want to give in and see where this story takes me? Am I going to step off the hill and like move with the current, or am I going to stand and fight the current? Where are you going to be in that situation? But by the time you've gotten to the Nine of Wands, that story is well written. You're now at the point where you're refining it, and you're kind of in those stages of really defending and protecting this thing that you've built. So in the Nine of Wands, you're standing guard over this work that you have poured blood, sweat, and tears into. The Nine of Wands is kind of how it might feel. And this is where you're defending and protecting, right? Here, you're standing up for yourself, or you're kind of deciding, are you going to go with flow? Are you going to join the group down here, or are you going to stay up here and fight for your different way of looking at things? But the Nine of Wands is more about protecting something that's been established. Like, you poured a lot of work, heart, soul, etc. So at this point, it'd be like if you, okay, so you've written your book. It's out in the world. It's all good. And then you get a negative review. Are you going to stand there and like fight that person? Like, because that's the shadowy side of the Nine of Wands. It's like an overprotectiveness of what you've created or what you've worked on. And then the not shadowy side is like, sometimes you do have to stand up for what you've done and what you've created. Sometimes you do have to put yourself in the position to protect what it is you've built. Another example of this might be somebody like, I don't know. There's a, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. Like, there's a protective energy to this, and we can be protective in a healthy way, and we can also be overprotective in a bad way. But this is protecting something, or something close to you, something important to you. This is like all about belief, in my opinion, is all about belief structure and deciding whether you're going to die on that hill or not. I don't know if I differentiated them enough. Velvet Forest Moon, you'll have to tell me. I'm going to scroll down and just see if you're still here and if you got anything out of that. I hope this helps, because the more that you sort of, and these are such great conversations to have, because the more that you start to look at what's happened, and here's another example. So you've defended your work, right? What happens next? The Ten of Wands. Now it's yours. Now you are responsible for it. You've defended it. You've protected it. It is now yours. It is 100% your responsibility. How are you going to carry that responsibility? And how are you going to, maybe you need to ease up on some of this energy so you can put some of the sticks down, right? Maybe it's like picking your battles too, right? There's a story in every single suit if you look for the story, which is why I love tarot decks and different tarot decks so much. I'm so glad you guys enjoy these. This is great. Okay, let me scroll up a bit and find where this question was. Okay. Numerology, 1, it's the beginning and it's everything. That's related to our conversation on the aces. That's a great analogy. Okay, 2 of Swords versus 2 of Wands. Oh, yes, let's talk about it. Let's grab the 2 of Wands first because I'm kind of in the Wands suit. I'm trying to keep this deck in order by putting them back in order too. Okay. Forgive my throat clearing. Sorry, guys. I've used my voice a lot lately. And I think the Cups is actually below the Wands. Yeah. No, Swords, not Cups. What am I doing? We want Swords. They're after the Pentacles. Yeah, there they are. Okay. Okay. So, 2 of Swords looks like this. Something along these lines, right? And then we have the 2 of Wands. Looks like, oh, wait, that's the 3. I grabbed the wrong card. Okay, there we go. There's the 2 of Wands. These are so different to me. But the reason these can get confusing is because both of our figures here are considering possibilities. This is what's so cool about the tarot. When you start to build your own association with numerology, which is why that was such an important piece for me to add in Tarot Bootcamp. When you start to build your association with the numbers, it just makes everything more clear. 2s are often about choice, right? And in both of these situations, we have a choice being considered. But let's talk about the differences. So let's talk about the 2 of Swords first. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So in the 2 of Swords, our central figure's eyes are closed. They have 2 swords and they're crossed over their heart, right? And like in general, this position, you're holding 2 sharp objects next to your throat, right? Like oftentimes when we're in this situation and our eyes are closed, which it just points out that this is happening internally. This is a mental struggle. So we are holding our 2 swords. Well, either one, it can feel like either decision is not great. It can feel like both decisions are good, potentially too. But the swords to me always make me think that it can feel like being stuck between a rock and a hard place, like where it feels like neither decision feels quite right. It can feel like you're sort of trapped in a way. You're very bound up. And it's worth noting that in a lot of the Rider-Waite-Smith versions of this card, our heart is blocked, which is really interesting. What were to happen if you were to uncross your arms, open your heart, connect there, and then make the decision? Like what would happen then? And it's just a question. Maybe it wouldn't make it any easier, but maybe it would. And that's something that I pull into or lean into sometimes as a reader. But the 2 of Swords is often a mental struggle between paths. You could also picture this kind of as a crossroad with each sword representing a different path you're considering going down. And I think where we really get trapped in this particular energy or in this particular card is we often are only thinking about the 2 choices most visible to us in that moment. And almost always there is more to consider. There is a third option. There is a neither option. There is a both option. There's other ways to look at the situation, but we're so bound up in this or this or this, that we can't see clearly. That's why we're blindfolded or our eyes are closed. So that's kind of the energy of the 2 of Swords to me. The 2 of Wands, this is a really different kind of feeling. Okay, nothing's crossed in front of his heart. Right? This is looking inward. This is looking outward. They couldn't be more different when you think about it that way. And in the 2 of Wands, our character is usually up somewhere high, maybe on a castle wall. And the Mons Tarot, he's up on a hill and he's holding his 2 wands and he's got his globe in his hand. And oftentimes this globe literally looks like the planet Earth. And I see that idea of looking out and holding these wands and holding this globe. I see that as like you're on this high perspective. You can see the vast landscape in front of you. Anything is possible in this place. And it is a card of possibility to me. In fact, I think that's maybe even the word that I used in Tarot with Training Wheels. Ask me if I remember. I have to keep having to look it up because I've got all my notes, but like I'm one of those people that like once I birth something into the world, it's like, okay, I'm good now. Like I've birthed it and my brain just like discards half of it. So yeah, that's a thing that happens. Okay, so there's the 3 of Wands. There's the 2 of Swords in the Druid Craft. So, that's perfect. I want to show that. Okay. Let's take a look at the 2 of Wands in this deck. I really do love the Druid Craft Tarot. It's such a beautiful deck. Oh, see, this is like one of my least favorite Two of Wands. That I just complimented the deck and I'm about to crap on it. But like, I don't like this. I don't like this card because it's not the same to me. We don't see a figure looking out. It's the chalk drawing from, I forget, but like it's got significance. That's fine. But like, it's not, anyways, possibility is what we have in the Druidcraft Tarot. But in the Two of Swords, I have to look at, this is what I mean. See how I said the swords are like two paths? Look at this. That's exactly what it's like. But who's to say she can't turn around and walk the other way? Who's to say she can't go off-road, right? And that's the kind of interesting thing about the twos. My point is this. In the Two of Wands, you're looking out over your landscape and you're considering what's possible. You're opening yourself up to perspective and to look out across this vast landscape and consider where you might go. The Two of Swords is very limited. You're mentally very limited. You're like, I can go here or I can go here. In the Two of Wands, you're like, I can go anywhere. Where would I like to go? It's just this really cool space to be where you haven't committed to a path yet, so you've got options, and it's just a really cool energy. I hope that answered your question, Oxmi Chaxo. I'm not saying your name right, I'm sure, but I hope that helped. Hello everybody just joining. Hello. Oh good, Velvet Forest Moon. I'm glad that helped. Okay. So let me scroll up. I'm going to try to get to the questions in chat. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything before then. Talking about the difference between the 9 and 10 of Cups, I see 9 of Cups as personal happiness with what you achieved personally, but the 10 of Cups is more about group contentment, like family or work. Yeah, and I tend to kind of box my suits into their element a bit, and I do that on purpose so that I don't know if you guys struggle with this, but when it comes to reading for myself, it's very easy to look for the meaning I want to see, and I work very hard to not do that. And one of the ways that I do that in my personal readings is that I try to keep the element in their suit. So for example, if I'm seeing 9 and 10 of Cups, I try to focus primarily on the realm of emotion and water, and relationships and things like that. So I would probably focus more on happiness and contentment versus work for me personally. I do see what you're saying though with the 9 of 10 of Cups, and let me just pull them up. They're near the back here. Oops. This is much less unwieldy with only 2 decks. This is a much better way to do this. Okay, so in the 9 and 10 of Cups, the 9 of Cups, personal contentment, totally agree. This is like emotional satisfaction and fulfillment. We're feeling good about our lives. We've probably got a decentish sense of self-worth in this card as well, which is something worth exploring. If you pull this in a reversed, how are you not content with yourself or others, right? If you pull this this way. Oops, don't drop things, Lisa. And then the 10 of Cups is, yes, more outward focused. I would say it's more about, community, connection with others. I also tend to see the 10s as being a little over the top, but you are correct. That's a really good distinction between the two, to have the 9 of Cups be more about your internal sense of personal fulfillment and happiness, and the 10 be about that, the way that you're able to share that or radiate that outward to the people around you, which I think is a really great way to look at that card. And let's see. Snow globe or crystal ball? Yeah, if you missed my ace as the seed and the snow globe analogy, that's another beautiful way to look at it. Crystal ball for sure. I like snow globe because it's got a world contained, kind of like Truman Show, like, you know what I mean? I feel like if you just zoomed in, let's see. Barb says, oh, this is back to our discussion on the 5s. Barb says, this is what the thesaurus has for conflict: battle, clash, combat, competition, rivalry, strife, struggle, and war. Yeah, I could see why that word would cause some struggles in the 5s. Struggle might be a good word for 5s, actually. Let's see. Ooh, LB says the watchman is always the word that comes to mind when I see the 9 of Wands. Yeah, we're defending and protecting, but we're guarding, maybe is a better word. I like to use energy that relates in my head to guarding for the 9 of Pentacles, and defending, which I think is a more active process, in the Seven of Wands. I think the interesting thing is that the Nine of Wands shows us a little battered and bruised. We usually see somebody who looks like they've taken some damage, like in video game terms. I'm very much in my brain with video games lately, but in video game terms, it's like your health meter is quite low in the Nine of Wands. Like you're struggling to do it, but you're doing it anyways because it's important to you. Like you might be running real low on your energy resources, and you're still standing there doing what you need to do because it needs to be done. Yeah. I don't know if that made any sense to anybody but me. Okay, let's see this. Okay, so I think I'm mostly caught up. So Lori Madsen says, how often in your readings for self and others do the quartz end up representing actual other people? Had a reading last night and I'd pulled the King of Cups, a card that's been stalking me. And immediately reader asked me how this person was in my life. It turned out it was my husband. Who this person was in my life. It turned out it was my husband. Okay, so here's my thinking. Here's my thinking about this. How often? The interesting thing about the quartz is this. Each court card represents an aspect of personality, and you can really deep dive into a study of the quartz. And in fact, there are some resources out there that, and I think this is such a cool way to look at it, but it is also limiting. You can assign each of the court cards to each of the Myers-Briggs personality types. There are 16 court cards, and there are 16 Myers-Briggs personality types. I think if you don't know that, it's like a personality typing system, like INFP, INFJ, that kind of thing. Obviously, I'm picking ones that I'm familiar with. Can you tell? So here's my thinking. If you assume that each court card is kind of illustrating a specific personality type, it's rare that people in my life fit neatly into one of those court cards. For example, Peggy often can show up in my readings as a King of Wands, a Knight of Wands, a King of Cups, any of those three, sometimes King of Swords, King of Wands. It just depends. All of us have all of these energies within us. It's kind of like which one is more dominant at any one time, which one are we leaning into in that moment. So a person who in one reading comes up as the Queen of Cups could literally come up in another reading as the Queen of Swords. Because maybe that person is in a really nurturing space and has been treating you in nurturing ways when she came up as the Queen of Cups. Maybe that same person is maybe being less nurturing and being a little more direct with you and could come up then later for you. Maybe this is your husband and he comes up later as the Queen of Swords. So it literally can depend. When I'm pulling cards in a reading and I see a court card, I usually will check in with myself intuitively in that moment and ask myself if this seems to be something about an energy that my client needs to embody, something about maybe something that they need to do more of or less of in how they relate with other people, or could this be relating to a personality they're dealing with? And it's 1000% contextual. And I don't think I'd be able to quantify how often it happens as one versus the other. But I will say, be careful of limiting the court cards into thinking that a person has to line up perfectly with one. I associate very strongly with the Page of Cups, but there are times I am more Queen of Cups or even Queen of Pentacles. There are times I lean into other energies depending on what I'm doing. I can be very King of Swords if I'm in my element. If I'm, for example, building this course, very intellectual, very detail-oriented, very strategic, very like, how do I want all the pieces to fit together, very big picture thinking. That is not me 99% of the time. But when I was building this course, I was very much in that space because I was passionate about the topic and I wanted it to flow a certain way and I wanted it to flow into the next course a certain way. And like, I was very outside my usual way of behaving. So I think just be careful of limiting yourself or anybody else to always associate with a particular card, because then you'll miss the messages when they come through. Think of the court cards as fluid aspects of any of us, of any situation. They just represent a type of energy that tends to be very personified, right? A project can be a Knight of Swords. You just need to twist your mind up a little bit around that concept. And it just takes practice. And going out of your way to read with just the quartz is a great way to get comfortable with them. Like pulling quartz to answer questions that aren't about people is a really great way to just practice. It's uncomfortable at first, not going to lie, but just practicing that sort of thing can help you to wrap your head around how how they can show up in that way, like what they could be telling you in that way. Some people will actually read court cards like they are talking to you as the reader, and that's an interesting way to engage with them. So maybe what you do is you're doing a reading, and the Knight of Cups comes up, and you're like, what would the Knight of Cups tell me about this position and this reading that I'm doing? Like, let's say you pull up, let's go back to that work environment situation. You're asking about your work, and you pull the Knight of Cups in the future position. Instead of engaging with it like, how is the future Knight of Cupsy, you could literally say, if I was sitting down for a coffee with the Knight of Cups right now, what would he tell me about my future at this job? There's lots of different ways to sort of engage with and play with the courts. And if you think of it more like, less like something that's intimidating and more like something that gives you a lot of options, your mindset will shift and you might be able to come at things a little differently. This is totally unrelated, but I just felt like answering. MM says, purchased 3 new decks last week, not liking 2 of them, sad and disappointed. Do I hold on to them and see if they work for me later? Do I give it away or resell? Any suggestions? I feel like I wasted money. Okay, 2 things I'm going to say. And one of the things I'm excited, okay, how do I get all the thoughts that just popped into my brain out to you guys? Okay, so first off, be gentle with yourself. Secondly, a lot of times a deck looks like it's going to be perfect for us and it's going to work for us. And then we get it in our hands and we're like, well, that's a hard nope. Oftentimes I find my mood can affect it. I go through seasons with tarot where everything is wonderful and exciting and nothing is good. Everything sucks. Like, I don't know if you guys go through this, but I go through this in waves. And my waves of how open I am to a new deck versus how picky I am about a new deck just completely changes. So if I get a new deck in, perfect example, actually, I was asked if I wanted to review a deck. I said no, I don't think it's for me. It's not my personality type, but they sent it to me anyways because I have a video coming up that it would be useful for about card stocks. They sent it to me anyways. And then I got it and I was like, this is actually kind of cool. I still don't know if I would work with it, but my reaction to it in person was so different than my reaction to it when just considering it as a concept and looking at pictures, right? And we can have that same experience like in reverse, right? Where we look at it and we're like, that's so cool. And then we get it in hands and we're like, meh, no, don't like it. You know what I mean? So if I'm in that mood, especially if it's happening, I feel like in a pattern where I feel like I'm reacting to a lot of new decks that way, I put them away. I just put them away. And I tell myself, you know what? I don't need to decide all this right now. Yes, I spent X dollars. I actually just had this experience with a deck that I backed on Kickstarter. I got it in and I was like, what was I thinking? Like literally that was my reaction. I'm like, well, giving that away. And I put it in a giveaway pile. I'm sorry. This might be a weird thing to share with you guys. I put it in a giveaway pile. And then I'm like, actually, wait. I need to like slow my roll for a second here. Maybe I'm just in a bad mood today. Maybe it's just not hitting me right today. Let me revisit it. That's why I like to have like a purgatory drawer. If I'm pretty sure something is going, I'll put it in the purgatory drawer. And then I have time to kind of think about it and consider it. And do I really miss it? Maybe I'll watch other people's walkthroughs of it and I'll see what they think about it. And I wanted to come back to here because this is kind of, how do I say this? You can do this with either of these. Tarot with training wheels or your tarot with bootcamp deck or both, right? Depending if you've got both. So here's what I like to do. Is put your Tarot with Training Wheels deck in order or put your Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners deck in order and take out the deck you're not sure if you like, okay? When you're in a mood for it. Obviously, make sure you're in the right mood for it. But lay the 2 decks side by side in order because your keywords that you did through Tarot with Training Wheels or through Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners reflect your view of those cards or what makes sense to you about those cards, right? And if you look at a new deck, card by card, next to your view of that card, you'll understand right away where there may be a disconnect. And you can even then do an exercise where you do the cards side by side in order, right? So let me just show you an example. That is my decks aren't in order, but I'm just going to pull. Okay. So here's an example. I've got my Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners card here for the sun. And then I have my Mons Tarot set. And we know that Mons Tarot and I are like, we're like peanut butter and jelly. We're besties. Okay. But let's assume this was a brand new deck. See if I can do this in an unbiased way. So here's my Mons Tarot card, and here's my Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners card. So let's take a look at my keywords. I have light. Do I see light in this card? Yeah, I think I do. Do I see vitality? Oh, absolutely. Look at how vibrant this character is. Do I see fun? Yeah. Warmth? Yeah. Joy? Absolutely. Positivity? Yes. Authenticity? I can see that in this image. this is a really cool thing that you get to do, whether you have one keyword from your Tarot with Training Wheels deck. So let's just go to my sun in my Tarot with Training Wheels because I don't remember what my keyword was. Same idea. Same idea. Here it is. Okay, illumination. There's my Tarot with Training Wheels. Do I see illumination in this deck that I'm not sure about? Yeah, I do. And then what you can do, and this is a cool thing to do, you can do that. And every time you feel like a card matches up from this deck you've just brought in with your view of that card, do you see your keyword in that card? And every time the answer to that question is yes, you put that card in a pile. And every time the answer to that question is no, you put it in a different pile. And every time you're like, kind of can't quite tell, you put that maybe in a third pile. So you have these are definite yeses. They align with the way I view the tarot. These are definite no's. They don't align with the way I view the tarot. This is only dealing with one issue, which is, does this deck represent your view of the tarot, right? And then when you're done, you just see how many yeses do you have versus no's. And that can give you a really good idea. This happened to me specifically with the Mermaid Tarot by Lisa Robertson. I wanted to love that deck so hard. That deck came to me when my dad died. It was like, it just felt so important to me at the time. But I realized that I had more no's than I wanted to have in a deck. It was just the no pile was a little too big for the way that I view the tarot. So it was a stumbling block. But what if it's something else? What if it's quality or it's cardstock or it's, other like hard to quantify things or more tactile things? Maybe the deck's too big or too small and there's something like that. Then I would say put it away and see if you really care that much about those things later. If everything else about the deck lines up and you enjoy it visually and everything else looks good. You can also do the same kind of exercise where you just go through the deck and you're like, I like this image, I don't like this image. I like this image, I don't like this image. These ones I'm fine with, but these are the ones I love the most. And you see how many kind of meh cards you have, how many yeses you have, how many no's, right? Same idea. It can be a good exercise to really see how much of your reaction to that deck is like gut reaction or buyer's remorse, which is also a thing. Like, why did I spend the money on this? I don't like it enough. Could be that, but just sit with it. That's what I would say. That was a very long answer to a question. IT guy, do you think there's such a thing as getting bad cards? Let me pull this up. Or wait, bad cards or multiple readings of bad cards, or do you see positives even in dark, heavy readings? I have an empowering reading style, which means that no matter how difficult the message is, there is something you can take from that experience, right? You can always mine gold from the most difficult of experiences. That doesn't mean it doesn't feel like garbage when you're in it, right? And I think it's not always beneficial to focus only on the positive, right? If I do a 3-card reading and I pull the 3 of Swords, the Tower, and the 10 of Swords, I got some crap on my plate, right? And it doesn't do me any favors to ignore that. It doesn't do me any favors to pretend that's not the case. But in every single one of those cards, there's still a benefit. In the 3 of Swords, we're learning something and we're experiencing pain and disruption to our lives, but there's an opportunity for growth in that process. There's an opportunity to learn something so we don't go through that again. In the Tower, we have heard this again and again and again. Yes, our structures are being torn down. Yes, things are not going to look the same going forward. But there's an opportunity to rebuild in a smarter, healthier way. And that is the point, right? Same thing in the 10 of Swords. Like Don Michelle says, but actually, are you dead though? Did you die? If you didn't die, then there's hope for your future, right? Like, let's calm down, stop being so dramatic, and like look forward. So no matter how heavy the reading is, you can address the difficulty and still empower yourself to move forward in a healthy, positive way. But I think it's really easy to go, all these cards are bad, let's just redraw. Or like to just, there's always, I want to say it carefully. It's not that there's always positives in every bad situation. If you pull the Death card and you've just lost a loved one, you're not going to see anything freaking positive in that reading, right? It's going to be hard. And I don't think we're doing good for ourselves if we ignore the hard stuff, if we ignore the fact that it's hard, if we just jump right to the positive meaning of that card. But that also said, do I think that there are bad cards? I think there are definitely, I don't like the word bad. It feels like a value judgment. Like, you're not a bad person. It's just that your behavior is bad. Like, that's the way I think of the world, right? So when it comes to cards like the Tower, it's like the Tower, cards like the Tower, the 10 of Swords, the 3 of Swords, the 5 of Cups, the 5 of Pentacles, the 5 of Swords, lots of fives. A lot of those cards are very difficult. And I like the word difficult. there are often difficult cards. And when you get multiple readings of difficult cards, I feel like the cards are saying, pay attention to the hard stuff. You need to look at it, because I think, at least for me, when I get lots of hard or difficult cards, it usually means that I've got my rose-colored glasses on. I'm going through the world like, tra-la-la, everything is wonderful. And actually the tarot's like, girl, sit down. We got some talking to do, right? So that's how I see that. I hope that answered your question. LB says, I wonder if the court card is something to be learned. If we do not take a hold of the lesson, a person with that energy will show up in our lives to push us in the direction of the lesson. I've had that experience. I wouldn't say that's always what it means, but I think that is one meaning. Here's the incredible thing. Like, as you learn and grow with the tarot, this is my experience, and anybody who's worked with the tarot for a while, please chime in as well. My experience is this. You start out with the tarot, and this is what makes it so freaking cool and beautiful and wonderful in every way. But when you're first learning the tarot, much like with our tarot with training wheels, you start with a basic understanding of what each card can mean. And the more that you work with it, the more that this card comes up for you in a reading, the more that you explore what it's like to be in a Two of Swords experience. I really don't like that Two of Wands. But what it feels like to be in a moment where you're at the Star. What does it feel like when you're in the Tower, right? What does it feel like when you're in the Chariot? What is that experience like? How does that manifest in your life? How does that energy show up? And if you're reading for friends and family, which I definitely encourage, if you are new, don't wait to read for other people. I don't know if I've said this at all or enough, but don't wait to read for other people. I would say wait to charge money for readings until you know you can give people a value service, right? Because you're going to charge for it. But read for your friends and your family. Read when you're brand spanking new. Pull out your deck and ask somebody if you can practice on them and read the cards. Read your training wheel deck. Or if you didn't do the training wheel thing, which is totally fine, pull out a deck you want to learn and read for your friends and family with the deck and say, I'm going to be referring to the guidebook as we go. I just want to try to put this together. It is the best way to learn the tarot, to read for yourself or to read for others if you're comfortable and you want to be able to read for others. If you only want to ever read for yourself, practice reading for yourself. Practice right away. Don't wait until, don't feel like you have to I have to have this many notes or I have to have taken this many courses or any courses. Just start. Fumble through it. Make mistakes. Be confused. Get a card that comes up and you have no idea what it means, and then you have to look it up because that's where all the learning is. I'm off the rails a bit on this question, but I just feel like, every time you work with a card, it gets a little more comprehensive in your mind. And it's like with anything else. If you're studying anatomy, right, at first it's just gobbledygook. And then you start to apply that anatomy. You start to see, okay, how does this bone connect to this joint? And how does that affect range of motion? Well, sorry, I was an anatomy geek when it comes to yoga. So that's one of the places that I go. But starting to piece together your associations with every single piece, you start to get this bigger picture. It starts to come alive. But it doesn't come alive unless you're working with it, unless you're playing with it, unless you're comparing different decks or reading different guidebooks or reading for others or reading for yourself or asking it different types of questions. Ask it. Don't reserve just the special questions for tarot if you're trying to learn. Ask it anything. Ask it where the frick your keys are. We had this come up. Somebody told me about this. Anne Seidel says, isn't it a big responsibility to read for others if you're a new tarot reader? Yes. And also no. And this may be a controversial answer, so let me be careful how I express this. There's going to be different schools of belief on this, and everybody's personal beliefs on this are valid. I'm not going to in any way imply that my way of looking at it is correct. There are plenty of people who believe that every time you touch the tarot cards, you are connecting with a force greater than yourself, or you're connecting to the spirit realm. There's lots of that kind of thinking. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that may even be technically, objectively, factually true. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. But I do know this. If I have a loved one and they're learning to cook and they want to cook for me, I'm okay with that. And if the food is not perfect, that's fine. They'll get better over time. Who's
cooking for you?
Nobody. I'm doing all the cooking lately. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sit down. Shush. Here's a good example. I got an espresso machine. When I wanted to make espresso, were my first lattes real good? No. But if I never tried, if I never did that, so yeah, I served some bad coffee, right? But here's the important thing, and this I feel very strongly about. If you are going to read for somebody and you are brand new, do not pretend you're not brand new. Say it up front, be completely transparent and honest, and let them know that you really have no idea what you're doing, or you're just learning how to do it and you're just practicing. be clear about that, because if you serve bad coffee to somebody because you said, I got this espresso machine and I'm going to make you the best coffee of your life, and then you give them a shitty coffee, then you've broken trust. Okay. It's coffee, like who cares? But like also, like that's a thing, right? So if I'm going to read for tarot for somebody as a beginner, I'm going to say, hi, I'm a beginner. I'm going to be just practicing. Are you cool with that? And if they say yes, and if I'm comfortable with that, then I'm going to do that. So that's my advice. I think that's a healthy, effective, good thing to do. That's my beliefs, is that it's perfectly fine and it's perfectly safe. And I don't believe that picking up a tarot deck automatically connects you to baneful energies. I just don't think that way, but that's a personal belief thing. If you feel like the tarot is a very sacred tool and that you have no business wielding it for others until you're an expert, that's okay. You're allowed to believe that. I personally believe that the best readers happen because they aren't afraid to experiment and try and play. And yeah, do that for yourself, but read for people who are going to be okay with letting you practice on them. I think that that's a really great thing to do, and be upfront. And the most important thing, I think, in a situation where you're reading for others, whether you are an expert or you are brand spanking new, is just say, I'm going to give you what I think these cards mean. And I do this now in my professional readings. If you've ever booked a reading with me, you've probably heard me say to you, this is what I'm pulling from these cards, but you have to trust yourself. You have to resonate with what I'm saying. And if it doesn't feel true for you, don't take it on just because I said this is what it means. Like, every person has agency over themselves. And I think it's really important to remind anybody you read with that just because you pulled the Tower in their future and you think that means something bad is going to happen, doesn't necessarily mean that something bad is going to happen. They need to vet everything they say through their own sense of self, their own self-awareness, etc. I hope I'm saying this right, because I'm very passionate about this. I'm very passionate about the fact that it's good and healthy to read for others at the very, very earliest stages of working with the tarot, as long as you're honest. And like, I wouldn't be doing mediumship readings or like, you know, I'm going to read the spirits of your house, or I'm going to like try to connect you to your long lost grandma or something. I wouldn't do that as a brand new reader. But like, hi, you have a question about work? Let me throw some cards and let's see what it means. You can even collaborate about it, right? Like, you can even say, here's what the guidebook says. This is a great way to practice, by the way. You pull a Celtic cross. Don't be scared of the Celtic cross. It's actually a really cool beginner spread. I have a video on the Celtic cross you can check out. Don't be afraid of it. But you throw down your 10-card Celtic cross, right? And you said, okay, we're going to answer your question and we're going to look at the guidebook together. I'm going to read you what the guidebook says and let's discuss it. Because the person sitting across from you, as soon as you read what the guidebook says, will probably go, oh my God, I know exactly what that's about. Because that's how tarot works. It's so awesome, right? So you can you don't have to be I'm going to tell you what this is all about. You can say, let me tell you what I think it's about, and then you tell me what you think it's about, and let's chat about it. That's a great way to practice. And let other people read for you. If you have anybody in your life that likes to read or is interested in reading, let them fumble through readings for you too, because you'll learn that way also. Oh, you're welcome. I don't like to hoard knowledge. Like, who does that help? Like, if you want to take my course, take my course. If you want to do the tarot with training wheels, do the tarot with training wheels. But I'm not going to hold back in these lives just because of that. You know what I mean? This is also very unstructured. So there's that. But I don't think anybody benefits when we hoard our knowledge. That's my feeling about that. Let's see. Barb says, I found Dawn Michelle's video where she did the exercise of going through the cards and putting them in like an ick and WTF piles, like Lisa mentioned. I didn't know there was a video about that. Oh, that's good. I'm sure I've seen it. And Dawn and I typically have very similar approaches to tarot in some areas, like particularly with new decks and things. Angela says, I have found for me, I look at it intuitively at first for myself, then I go to the book and fill in the blanks. Yes, it's a great way to read. And the funny thing is, I go in cycles or seasons of how I work with the tarot. And for the past couple of years, when I read for myself, I will, when I'm doing a daily draw, I'll often go to the guidebook first and then think about it. Sometimes I do it in reverse, but a lot of times lately, kind of depends on the deck too, but whatever. A lot of times lately, I will read the guidebook first because I want to start from an objective place and then I want to layer in what I think it means, because I know myself and I know I have a tendency to lean into what I'm hoping the cards will tell me, and I don't want to lie to myself. So I like to start with the book, and I actually had an incredible experience with a daily draw that I was not expecting yesterday because I did that, because I pulled the cards and I was like, yeah, let's see what the guidebook says and then we'll figure it out, right? And the guidebook said something so spot on that I could have never expected. And it was so cool. And in a way, working with the guidebooks can be a divination all in itself. It's very much almost like bibliomancy. The guidebooks of decks these days, lots of them have beautiful things in them and so much wisdom and perspective, and it's really cool. Anyways, I could wax poetic about guidebooks all day long. I agree that the querent should have agency over themselves and card meanings, but what do you do if you're reading for another tarot reader and they always take over or bulldoze the reading? Let's talk about it. Okay, because I've had this happen. And I have had it happen with clients and I've had it happen with friends and family. So let me start with clients because this kind of matters and it will help put in context what I'm going to say about friends and family. When you read for others, there's two things you're kind of doing for people. One thing, you're answering their question in a divinatory way, which is a service of sorts, right? Whether you're doing it for family or you're doing it for a paying client. But two, you are giving the person that you're reading for an opportunity to talk about something that's going on in their lives or to express frustration or to explore something that they're struggling with. And so I like to see every reading as an invitation into somebody else's spiritual or mental living room, right? I'm being invited into their home, into their space, into their mind, into their problem to discuss it with them. And so on one hand, if the other person takes in a client reading, especially in an in-person client reading, where let's say I'm reading in a metaphysical shop and there's somebody sitting across from me, very often, not even occasionally, often, probably more often than not, that person will end up doing most of the talking. And that's okay. Sometimes what needs to happen more than anything else is they need to feel validated in their experience. So you might pull a card and tell them what it means, and then they're off to the races and they're talking for 10 minutes, and that's okay. That's what they're there for. They want to work it out. And maybe that means that you're more a listener than a talker, even though that's not what you feel like you were hired for. That is kind of also what you were hired for in a paying client situation. So the reason I'm telling you that example first is because with friends and family, it's a little trickier. And when you're dealing with an experienced, I kind of went off the rails a little bit on that piece because that's more about just in general when the other person is kind of bulldozing the reading. But now let's talk about if they're an experienced tarot reader. So let's say an experienced tarot reader books me for a reading. And I say, I've pulled the sun, and I really feel like this is talking to you about your need to take off some of your masks and be more authentic with people. Because that's what I get from the card in that moment in the context of that reading. And the person who knows what the sun is all about, because they're an experienced tarot reader, is sitting across from me. They're paying me for this reading. They're sitting across from me and they're saying, yeah, well, I really think the sun is really about like, I just need to show up more in the world. I need to assert myself. I'm making shit up. I need to assert myself. I need to play more, whatever. They've decided what it means. And I can say, okay, that's definitely worth sitting with, but this is what I'm getting from it. And just reassert yourself to be like, yeah, I totally, that could definitely be what this is telling you, but this is what I'm getting from it. So that's what I kind of want to talk about right now. And then maybe just you can validate and empower them to have their own interpretation of the cards, but also reassert the fact that just because they have that interpretation doesn't mean you do. So if you've read, let's say you pull the Two of Swords and you're like, you really need to step off. Maybe you don't need to make a decision at all right now. Maybe it's time to step off and not make this decision right now, because that's what you get from this when you pull it. Let's say that's what you get from it. And this tarot client across from you, who's also a reader, says, yeah, I don't think it's saying that. I think it's saying that I need to actually make a decision and choose a path. It's like, that could be. I'm just going to share with you what I'm getting from the card. It sounds repetitive and counterintuitive, right? But that's one thing that I do when it's with clients. It's like I need to hold my ground, because just because they think it means that doesn't mean that that's what I'm getting from it. And my job is to give them my interpretations. That's what they've hired me for. So I can validate them and say, yeah, absolutely, it could mean that, but this is what I'm getting. That is a great way to remember that you're still giving them your interpretation. And if they want to take it and run with it in a different way, that's on them. Paying client. Okay, now let's take it to friends and family. So I'm reading for somebody, and maybe it's my first time reading for a particular friend, and I've pulled all the cards and they're excited about what everything means. And they read tarot too. And they're like, oh, and this could be this. And next thing you know, it's like they're doing the reading. It's like, hey, that's really cool. Okay, cool. So let's start from scratch. Like, and you can literally say like, That's great. I'm so glad that you got that out of that reading. Do you need to take some notes down or make a mental note of what it is that you pulled from this? Because I'm going to dive into my reading now, or I'm going to dive into my interpretations now, if that's okay. Or you can kind of steer it back and say, that's great. I'm so glad that you got that out of it. Let me tell you what I think it all means, and you can do that card by card, or if they've taken over the entire reading. Yeah. Cause Tigerly Balm says, example, only wanting to read things in a positive way, wanting the same reading. Okay. Let's talk about same reading question over and over again. We're going to talk about that in a second too. Okay. So on the situation where somebody's just taking over because they're excited and they want to have their own interpretations in the mix, that's fine. And you can workshop that with them. Like, let's say you do pull this card and you get authenticity about it. And they're like, well, actually, I think I need more joy. And it's like, well, how can you have more joy then? Maybe in order to have more joy, you need to actually show up as who you are more. Maybe you need to actually let your guard down more. Maybe you need to be more authentic with the people in your life so you can let more joy in. You can actually workshop the meanings with somebody if you set your own ego aside a little bit. And that's hard to do, right? Because you also owe it to your client or the person you're reading for to stay kind of in control of the reading in a way. That's your job too. And a lot of this is like learning as you go how to do that without being a jerk about it or without letting yourself get bulldozed. But to the person who only, like, you pulled the tower and you're like, girl, you got to wake up, right? Like, you're like, hey, things are coming crumbling down. And if you don't pay attention, it's going to be a nasty ride. And they're like, no, I don't think it means that. See, I think my boyfriend, I think we're good. I think we're good. We're on solid ground. And it's like, I would go back to them and say, I know that you feel like you're on solid ground, but what I'm really getting from this is that feeling is kind of an illusion. And if you don't address the things that are going wrong, you're not going to be doing yourself or your boyfriend or your relationship any favors. I read for somebody like this. It was this card in particular. And I literally said, when I pulled this card, I knew immediately what it was. I said, you have all of these walls up around yourself and you need to take them down, even if it means taking them down brick by brick, but you need to start working on taking those walls down. And he looked at me and he said, I like my walls. And I said, that's well and good. And your walls were there to keep you safe. But in this particular situation you've asked me about, in this particular context of what's happening in your life right now, if you do not take charge of consciously taking down your walls, they're going to be taken down for you, and it's not going to be pleasant. And I was just very blunt in that moment because that was what I was there to do. I was there to give them the truth. And I'm not going to pander, but I can be kind about it. I can say, I totally understand what you mean. I know that they're there to make you feel safe. I'm telling you that what I'm getting from this card is that if you do not address this, if you do not take those bricks down out of your wall on your own, if you don't be a part of the process, it's going to happen anyway, but it's going to be a lot less pleasant and you won't have as much agency in the process and you're going to have regrets. So I'm telling you, actively engage with this energy and be a part of it because it's happening whether you like it or not. That's the kind of reading I will give. And people don't always expect that from me because I am a very fluffy kind of person and I like to give readings in a nurturing way, but I'm not empowering my client if I lie to them. I'm not empowering my friend or my family member if I tell them, yeah, I know you think that this means that your relationship is good, but like, girl, no. Like, there are so many red flags in these cards. Like, I'm seeing all these cards about manipulation, and I don't think what you see is what you're getting. And I think you need to be honest with yourself about that. I've had to do that. It's not fun, okay? It's not fun to say to somebody who's like, yeah, I think it means this. I think it's really about the positive. It's like, that could be. And here's the other thing. Don't be afraid to admit that you could be wrong. I could be wrong, but what if I'm not? What if I'm right? Let's just explore that for a second. What if this does mean that things are not great right now? What would you do differently? Would you do anything differently? How could you protect yourself? Or how would you move forward in this relationship if it's possible that what I'm saying is true? What then? What would you do? And would any harm come to you if you do those things, even if you think you're right? And that's the kind of conversation I would have with somebody I love or somebody I care about. If I was giving a reading and they were having a hard time hearing the difficult messages, is I'd be like, okay, you could be right. Maybe things are fine. But what if they're not? What if they're not? What would you do? And that's a really great way to re-empower your client. They don't have to accept the negativity, but they can maybe think about how to best prepare themselves in case it were true. And giving them that pretend opportunity to go, okay, I'm not saying this is absolutely 1000% true. I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong. Let's explore that. Like, if I'm wrong, what does that mean? And if I'm right, what does that mean? These are ways that you can kind of guide the reading and kind of at least make sure that you've delivered the message. What they do with it after that is completely on them, right? And then wanting the same reading to a question over and over again. Okay, this might have to be my last question for the day because my voice is totally going. So if I had this happen. I can't remember what the question was, and this was way back in the day. I was going to these like pagan community events, and I was always getting asked to read for this one person, which was fine. And I was always reading with the Brian Froud fairy deck because that was their deck and that was the deck they wanted me to use on them. So I would use their deck. It was fine, no big deal. So I would use the deck, read for them. And whatever question they were asking, I honestly can't remember. They would get the same answer again and again. And I didn't know how to handle that situation. I'm like, well, okay. And it felt like the same information just kept coming through again and again. And then one day I sat down to read for them with the Brian Froud Oracle. I don't know if you've ever seen that deck, but one of the cards is completely blank. It's like white. Still has the border, still has the backing. And that was the first card I pulled. And I just looked at them and I put all the cards away and I just said, it's the same. Like there's no new information to come out of this reading. In a paying client situation, if I feel like the client is asking the same question again and again, hoping for a different answer, then I will sometimes say, I think maybe the best thing at this point is to sit with the previous reading and give that a little bit of time to percolate, let it unfold a little bit. And then if you still have questions, let's build on that. Like if that previous reading is true, what do you need to know right now? So I can kind of redirect the question. And you can do the same thing with friends and family. If it's like, okay, somebody's asking you, when am I going to get a boyfriend? Like, when am I going to meet the love of my life? And you're like, you give them a reading and it's like, well, the reading says, let's say the reading says you need to do this and this and this to work on yourself first so that you can be available when the right person comes along. That's a lot of times how those readings tend to go, which is why I'm using that as an example. A lot of times when people ask me, when is this going to happen? The question is more like, well, when you're ready, and you're not ready. So here's some things you can do to get ready, right? So if that person comes back to me and is like, yeah, but when am I going to get a boyfriend? I'm going to be like, well, have you done XYZ? Like, let's revisit. How can you best prepare yourself? Have you made progress? Let's do a check-in on the previous reading. That's a little tricky sometimes because I don't remember my previous readings. I have a tendency, like once it's done, it's gone. But they can remind me and be like, well, you said last time that I had to do blah, 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 blah. I feel like I've done blah, 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 blah. So now what? And then I'm happy to read and say, okay, well, if you've done blah, 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 let's see what new things are going to come through. Yeah, we'll definitely use your tips when reading from a best friend, fellow tarot reader. Oh, good. Yeah, I kind of went way down the rabbit hole on that one, but it's such a common thing, right? And it can really zap your confidence. This is the other thing I will say. It can really zap your confidence if you're practicing and somebody else takes over, especially if there's somebody that knows more about the tarot than you. Like, I try really hard, and it's a hard habit to be in if you're experienced, right? When Peggy's practicing, it's hard for me to not go, well, maybe it means this, maybe it means that. Like, I want to help, But then I'm like, I try really hard to back off and go, she'll say, well, what does this card mean? And I'll try to say, here's the basic essential meaning of the card. How do you think it applies? Like, I'll try to bounce it back to her. Like, okay, but how do you think that? What do you think? Because I want her to read for me because I want her intuition, not mine. So I want to be like, here's some ways that card can mean if she needs that help. Or maybe she'll use the guidebook, which I love when she does that. Maybe she'll use the guidebook and then like interpret it from there, right? And I love that. But it's hard to restrain yourself when you want to just help because you can see them like kind of struggling. So one thing you can do if you're practicing reading is be very clear up front. Hey, I'm practicing reading. I know you know a lot about the tarot and I totally respect your tarot knowledge, but I really want to try to practice. So can I ask you to save any feedback on how I interpreted the cards or save your own interpretations for the end so that I can kind of get it all out and we can see how that applies, because otherwise I won't learn. Like if you're always handing me the answers, I'm not going to learn. So that's something else you can do when you're practicing is just be really clear that you're practicing, be really clear that you're really interested in their feedback, but you want it after the reading is over, and then go from there. Because yeah, that can be tricky to navigate for sure. Oh my gosh, my voice is like legitimately going now. It's gone. I filmed last night and late at night and then I went to bed. So my voice is like, we're done now. For those of you, thank you, Barb. Yes, this is the perfect time to announce. Tomorrow is the 3 Fat Readers Halloween special. If you do not know who the 3 Fat Readers are, it is myself, Danny of Danny Mystic, and Dustin of Modern Metaphysique, and we are getting together to have a Halloween special tomorrow live on the 3 Fat Readers YouTube channel. That is our collab channel. So we get together about once a month and we just chat, and it's live and it's super fun. They're really fun to watch back too. We have very lively discussions. Sometimes we debate with one another. If you don't know, Danny and Dustin and I all have very different approaches to decks and deck collecting, and the things that we like aesthetically, as well as our reading approaches, are all very, very different. We all have this different outlook on the world of tarot, and it's so fun to get together and like chat, because one of the things we love the most about our friendship is how unique we all are from each other, right? Like we're not this homogenized group of people who all think and act the same way, and it just makes it really fun and engaging. And yeah, so tomorrow we're gonna be talking about Halloween and just hanging out, doing Halloweeny things. It'll be great. And yeah, that will be super fun. So if you're not subscribed to Three Fat Readers, go subscribe and make sure you turn the bell on, because we usually give a few days notice before each live stream. But if you don't have all notifications turned on, you might miss it, because we don't post videos in between. So YouTube may not show you our upcoming stuff if you're not getting all of the notifications. So click the bell, make sure you click all on the Three Fat Readers channel. And that way you get the updates when they happen. Usually the three of us are also pretty good about posting on our socials about the next upcoming one. So make sure you're following us on our socials as well. That will help. So IG, YouTube, and maybe Facebook, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah. The when I will I have a boyfriend is a question that keeps coming up, even if I try to reword it for what she can do in the meantime. She says she doesn't need to do any self-work. Well, that's why she probably doesn't have a boyfriend. It's probably mean. I'm sorry. It's just, that is a thing. That is a very common thing. And it's hard when you're lonely, and it's hard when you're waiting for somebody and you just want to know what you can do. And it's like, oftentimes the best thing you can do is not focus on wanting a boyfriend. It sounds sucky, but it's true. Oftentimes you find what you're meant to find when you stop looking. It's so cliche, I know it, but it's so, so true. And taking some of the intensity out of it and refocusing that energy towards loving yourself is such a great use of your time in the meantime. And it makes you an even better potential future partner for somebody, because you've done that self-work. And anybody that says they don't need to do any self-work is full of crap. I'm just going to say, because we all need to do self-work always and forever. There is no end to self-work. None of us ever have it all figured out. None of us are ever like to that place where like we don't need to look at ourselves and work on things. We always all need to work on things. I feel very important. Very, very important. I feel very, what's the word I'm looking for? I feel very passionate about that. Very true. Oh yes, and if you're in an area where you might be able to see the Northern Lights, Barb posted a link to some kind of map thing. Check that out. We have clear skies, so we might actually be able to see them here tonight, which is exciting. So check that out. Thank you all so, so much. Again, we will have another one of these kind of just hacking the tarot, troubleshooting the tarot kind of live streams in November. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure that you're subscribed here, that you've clicked the bell, done all the good things. It is a forever thing. Yes, it guy. Absolutely. So yeah, thank you all so, so much. Thank you all so much for participating in and sharing your feedback about Tarot with Training Wheels. This has been a blast. I really enjoyed doing it. Again, if you want to dive deeper into all of the same kind of stuff we covered in Tarot with Training Wheels, but take it so much further, please check out Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners on my website. There is a discount you can access until for at least a few more days. I can't remember the exact deadline. I think it's in the description box down below, but check that out if you're interested. Don't feel any pressure. It's not going anywhere. It's not a time limited thing. You can sign up whenever the heck you want, if you want. But I just want to say thank you all so, so much, because this was my big YouTube thing I was working on for this year. And it's just really exciting that it's out in the world now and it gets to just live there and be available. And I look forward to doing more of these sessions with you guys in the future. And please bring all of your questions and your tarot knowledge to the next one. Thank you all so, so much. And may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye, guys.